They're called high threat prisoners, and he obviously is the poster child for this. I mean, he's engaged in violence.
The dangerous Ovidio Guzman is ready to trade secrets for his freedom. El Chapo's son just did the unthinkable in court, publicly apologizing and offering to expose secrets buried deep within the Sinaloa Cartel. With cameras rolling, his voice cracked. But what followed left the courtroom breathless and the cartel world shook. Let's dive in. The mouse that roared. Ovidio breaks the cartel code. Ovidio his three fugitive brothers, but he could also blow the lid off cartel connections in Mexican politics, border patrol corruption, and even US money laundering ops that look the other way for the right fee. Law enforcement analyst Ed Farrell said,
during his two arrests, we saw 30 people killed during his last arrest.
And it doesn't stop there. This man was part of the inner family, the crew that allegedly laundered millions through avocado farms, used Chinese chemical suppliers to cook fentanyl, and moved dope across customs-cleared lanes at the border. One DEA source called him the digital narco, a millennial kingpin who used crypto wallets, encryption apps, and even drone drops to move products. But it's not just about the money or the drugs. What makes Ovidio's confession so dangerous is what it implies, that the Sinaloa Cartel is starting to crack from the inside, and the timing couldn't be worse for the cartel. After El Chapo's extradition, their grip weakened. Now, if Ovidio flips, and evidence suggests he might, the entire hierarchy could collapse.
During his two arrests, we saw 30 people killed during his last arrest.
And if he does, names will drop. But even as the courtroom buzzed, Ovidio's attorneys played it close. Lawyer Jeffrey Lichtman, known for defending high-profile mobsters, dismissed the idea of cooperation. But according to former DEA agents, they've seen this movie before, and it almost always ends the same way: a snitch in the supermax.
He faces 10 years to life behind bars, likely in the Colorado Supermax prison.
But even behind bars, a man like Ovidio doesn't stop being dangerous, especially when he's willing to talk. Let's not forget, this is the man who once ordered a street-level execution over a shipment gone missing, the man whose cartel fired 50 caliber rounds at military helicopters.
They were using 50 caliber machine guns to fire at military craft in Mexico.
Now imagine that same man, eyes down, hands folded, telling a federal judge, "I want to make it right." So here's the question we're all asking. What's in it for him? Is this a desperate play for leniency, or is this part of a deeper betrayal inside the Sinaloa dynasty? Because something just doesn't add up. Why would a man bred in narco culture, raised in cartel privilege, suddenly risk everything? Family, reputation, his life, to say, "I'm sorry," maybe, just maybe. It's because the betrayal started from within his own bloodline. Let's see what that is, including the secret tapes, the US prison informants, and the double cross that may have forced Ovidio's hand. The bloodline betrayal, Ovidio's darkest secret. Ovidio Guzman Lopez, once poised to be the next generation's narco overlord, didn't just betray his family, he detonated a time bomb inside the Sinaloa Cartel. But as federal agents dig through the rubble of that betrayal, what they're uncovering isn't just shocking, it's criminal history being rewritten in real time. And while Ovidio may have started talking to save himself, by March 2024, he was talking to destroy. Internal documents from the US Attorney's Office in the Northern District of Illinois reveal that Ovidio refused multiple plea deals that would have limited his disclosures to operational logistics only. Instead, he demanded a closed-door deposition under seal, with no media allowed, where he dropped a bombshell that left investigators reeling. According to those privy to the briefing, Ovidio named a Mexican federal senator, still in office, as one of the cartel's monthly payees. Even more explosive, he claimed that the cartel helped rig local elections in Baja California, using bribery, voter suppression, and outright ballot manipulation to ensure the survival of their safe zones. Now, think about the implications. A sitting narco heir, under oath, laying out step by step how democracy was hijacked by drug money, and he wasn't bluffing. Shortly after his testimony, federal agents in Mexico conducted a quiet raid on a warehouse in Ensenada, where they uncovered fake voter IDs, ballot printers, and most damning, a ledger tracking weekly payments to mid-level government officials, including city prosecutors and border security chiefs. This is beyond criminal enterprise. This is state capture. What makes this even more disturbing is that Ovidio's confessions began to implicate American interests. Sources embedded in the DEA's cybercrimes division say the mouse revealed that at least 3 US-based lawyers knowingly laundered cartel money through non-profits and religious charities, that a major US retail chain unknowingly helped move cash via money order purchases used to fund fentanyl precursors from China, and that a popular Hispanic influencer with over 2 million followers was receiving cartel payments to subtly promote pro-Sinaloa narratives on social media platforms. And that That's where things get real dangerous, because once you involve US civilians, especially influencers, in the operations of a drug empire, it shifts the narrative from narco-criminality to domestic subversion. Meanwhile, the fallout inside Mexico has turned fratricidal. Ovidio's half-brothers have reportedly formed a breakaway faction called Los Demonios Negros, the Black Demons. Their singular goal? Hunt and silence every traitor associated with Ovidio's camp. In May 2024, a gun battle broke out in the highlands of Durango that left 11 dead. Among the bodies was Luis El Dogo Menchaca, a former lieutenant loyal to Ovidio. His tongue was cut out and his body left wrapped in an American flag, a symbolic warning that anyone cooperating with the US was fair game. And here's the kicker. Cartel radio chatter suggests one of Ovidio's own cousins pulled the trigger. This isn't just betrayal, it's biblical. But while the streets of Sinaloa run red, Ovidio sits in relative calm, surrounded by federal protection, monitored 24/7, his every movement catalogued, his every word recorded. A former federal interpreter told the Washington Post that during one of Ovidio's unguarded moments, he looked out the window of the detention center and said, "They think I sold them out, but they sold me out first. I'm just the only one man enough to admit it." That line didn't make the official court record, but the guard wrote it down in his shift log, because even behind shatterproof glass, that kind of statement, it cuts like a blade. And yet, the full scope of Ovidio's betrayal may not be about vengeance or redemption. It may be about legacy. There's a growing theory among intelligence analysts that Ovidio is trying to position himself as a controlled demolition, a man who tears down his father's empire brick by brick, not to escape it, but to rebuild something cleaner, smarter, and untouchable. Insiders suggest he's already proposed a narco truce model to federal prosecutors, dismantle the cartel's fentanyl operation, offer up key actors, and in return, receive leniency for a new political identity in protective custody. It sounds insane until you remember that Colombia's paramilitary leaders made similar deals in the 2000s, and that some of them now live openly, with changed names and government protection. The mouse may be trying to become a new kind of narco, one that doesn't need bullets to win, just deals. But if you think we uncovered the heavy part, then what's to come will shock you to your bones, because as cartel secrets spill out into federal courtrooms and encrypted group chats get cracked open, the real players behind the scenes start to panic. We'll expose the hidden financiers, the celebrity ties, and a secret ledger that allegedly contains names of US politicians and the exact amounts they were paid to look away. You thought this was about a drug empire crumbling, but this is about America's hidden complicity. Secrets, ledgers, and lies when the cartel came to Washington. Ovidio Guzman Lopez wasn't just spilling bloodlines, he was spilling national secrets. For months, the world thought his courtroom apology was a desperate play for mercy, a narco prince begging for grace. But behind closed doors, in government-safe rooms, and encrypted audio recordings, what Ovidio revealed was far more devastating. The Sinaloa Cartel had bought its way into US politics, and now the mouse is feeding the lion. It started with a ledger, a black leather-bound notebook pulled from a cartel accountant's stash house in Culiacan, part of a 2024 raid coordinated with info directly from Ovidio's second deposition. That ledger didn't just contain names, it had initials, bank transfer codes, crypto addresses, and US zip codes. One entry read simply KL, AZ, $52,000, Speech X3, Deckhouse 2022. Another, JW, DC, $140,000, Tunnel Bill Support, Febas 2023. And the worst part, many of these payments were confirmed by tracing transfers through offshore fintech platforms and layered cryptocurrency wallets, channels that Ovidio himself explained in forensic detail during his cooperative testimony with the DEA. According to leaked memos obtained by investigative journalist Luis Chapo, US officials are actively investigating 3 elected officials in Arizona, Texas, and New Mexico for allegedly accepting bribes in exchange for delaying fentanyl scheduling, legislation, obstructing cross-border drone surveillance, providing advance notice of ICE operations. Let that sink in. While Americans were overdosing in record numbers, while families were being torn apart by poison disguised as pills, politicians were allegedly getting paid to look away. And the guy calling them out, a man the world once labeled a monster. But here's where it gets darker. Ovidio didn't stop with names. He named corporations. According to court-admitted testimony, Ovidio claimed that a popular US agricultural export company knowingly allowed cartel trucks to be disguised as fruit shipments. These shipments moved tons of fentanyl and methamphetamine under the guise of avocados, bell peppers, and coffee beans. The company's name is redacted in court filings, but insiders say it's a billion-dollar player headquartered in California. The DEA followed up with inspections at 4 of the company's warehouses and, according to an exclusive Reuters leak, found residue of narcotics inside sealed packaging containers that had passed customs dozens of times in 2022 alone. And guess what tied the operation together? A former cartel chemist who defected in exchange for US asylum, the same chemist that Ovidio personally smuggled out of Sonora in 2020. This story keeps twisting because the people caught in Ovidio's net aren't just smugglers or dirty border agents. They're influencers, real estate moguls, and yes, even entertainers. One of the biggest bombshells dropped just weeks ago. In a restricted federal hearing, Ovidio revealed that a well-known Latin Grammy-winning reggaeton artist was used to launder over $5 million in show revenue through fake venue contracts in Guadalajara, Miami, and Los Angeles. He wasn't just performing for the cartel, he was part of the distribution pipeline. The artist, whose name remains under judicial gag order, allegedly allowed his tour buses to serve as mobile stash houses during US legs of his concerts. Hidden compartments beneath stage equipment held compressed fentanyl bricks, and security guards on payroll were ex-military cartel shooters. The connection? One of the performer's managers is Ovidio's ex-girlfriend's cousin, a woman who was detained in Mexico City in early 2024 and quietly extradited to Texas under sealed indictment. Nobody in the music world saw it coming, but Ovidio, he kept tabs on everybody. Now, let's talk fallout. As of June 2025, over 61 people have been indicted, due to intel provided solely by Ovidio Guzman. Among them, a US customs officer based in Nogales who cleared trucks in exchange for Bitcoin, a tech CEO from Phoenix who designed encrypted messaging apps tailored for cartel comms, and a retired Texas sheriff who provided real-time patrol routing in exchange for monthly consulting fees. And here's the most haunting part: Ovidio's not done. In a chilling phone call recorded in April, later verified by the Department of Justice, Ovidio said to his attorney, "They thought burying my father buried the empire, but they just handed me the keys." That quote now echoes through both the criminal underworld and the federal government like a curse. So what now? Ovidio Guzman Lopez is expected to be sentenced by early 2026, but what that sentence will look like remains a mystery. His cooperation may secure life in protective custody, a far cry from the hellhole that swallowed his father, or it could earn him a covert relocation, like some narco Edward Snowden, somewhere in the US where his past is a ghost and his voice remains sealed behind government folders. But what's clear is this: his words have changed everything. The illusion of the drug war being a fight between good guys and bad guys is now shattered, because when cartel cash infiltrates city halls, TikTok pages, and billion-dollar brands, the enemy isn't just south of the border, it's sitting next to us, shaking our hands, counting votes, and writing policies. Ovidio exposed a truth no one wanted to admit: the game was always rigged, and everyone played a part, knowingly or not. What started as a courtroom apology turned into a generational reckoning. One man, born into violence, forged by blood, and hunted by his own kin, decided to pull back the curtain on a multinational operation that touched everything from Capitol Hill to Coachella. Whether he lives to see daylight again is uncertain, but one thing is crystal clear: Ovidio didn't just flip on his family, he flipped the entire system. The cartels collapse when Ovidio's shadow swallowed the world. In the shadows of a courtroom confession, after deals were cut and names were dropped, a different storm began to brew, because what Ovidio Guzman Lopez set in motion didn't just shake the Mexican cartel structure or expose a few corrupt American figures, it did something far more dangerous. It ignited a domino effect across the globe, and by the time authorities realized what was happening, the fire had already leapt borders, oceans, and ideologies, pulling foreign governments, criminal syndicates, and black market bankers into the wreckage. This wasn't just the fall of the Sinaloa Cartel. This was the first global cartel collapse, triggered by a man once nicknamed the Mouse. In April 2025, Europol quietly arrested a Turkish national named Cemil Öztürk at a private airstrip outside Marseille, France. According to internal documents later leaked to Le Monde, Öztürk had direct encrypted communications with Ovidio as recently as 2023. But this wasn't just another middleman. Öztürk was one of the key figures managing the Sinaloa Cartel's European import routes, a critical node in their operation, responsible for moving Colombian cocaine through Balkan mafias and into Spain, Italy, and the Netherlands. For years, Europol had been chasing his movements, never able to nail him. Then, Ovidio handed over an offshore login key, an alphanumeric code that unlocked a secure Swiss-hosted server. That server contained shipment manifests through Antwerp port, shell company routing tied to Balkan cartels, payoff records to 3 Interpol field agents stationed in Eastern Europe. In one swoop, over 19 European arrests followed, and the collapse didn't stop there. Across the Pacific, in Hong Kong, financial regulators began quietly investigating 3 massive shadow banks with suspected ties to fentanyl precursor financing. The reason? A memo submitted during Ovidio's third sealed deposition revealed an underground payment network stretching from Shanghai to Sinaloa, managed by a triad-backed fintech ghost company. That ghost company, registered under an Australian citizen's name, its transaction logs showed over $400 million laundered in crypto between 2019 and 2023. And it all pointed back to Ovidio. His confession didn't just crack the system, it mapped it. Authorities in Vietnam, Malaysia, and Australia began detaining ghost runners, low-level operatives who delivered precursors and laundered digital tokens across Asia. It wasn't just a cartel issue anymore, it was an international crime cartel collapse, stitched together with Ovidio's testimony like a confession quilt. But perhaps the most haunting aftershock came from inside Latin America, not Mexico, but Colombia. As part of a classified cooperation with the US State Department, Colombian intelligence agencies began reopening cold cases from as far back as 2015, cases once deemed unsolvable due to international interference. And guess what? One file, labeled Operación Cuervo Silencio, contained photos of a mass grave in Antioquia. Inside, the remains of at least 14 cartel-connected operatives, all dismembered and dumped with military precision. The case had gone cold for a reason. Every victim had ties to a clandestine weapons pipeline flowing from US military contractors to Central America via Sinaloa front businesses. Ovidio's evidence, customs IDs, routing numbers, and, most chilling, a warehouse photo taken from his own encrypted phone, showing crates of US rifles inside a non-existent Honduran airbase. His statement in court, "The Americans gave us more guns than the Colombians ever did coke." The backlash? Immediate. Two private defense contractors were indicted in Virginia by mid-July. Their CEOs have since gone underground. Meanwhile, inside the US, the cracks started showing on home soil. As journalists dug deeper into court records unsealed after Part 3's revelations, one narrative became unavoidable. The war on drugs was staged on a rigged battlefield. Freedom of Information Act requests revealed internal memos from 2020-2023 showing multiple requests to block investigations into cartel-linked shell companies due to national security sensitivity. That phrase, repeated over 40 times in various DOJ and FBI correspondences, raised one chilling question: what exactly were they protecting? When asked in a press conference whether any US intelligence agencies may have knowingly overlooked cartel laundering in favor of tracking bigger fish, the Attorney General refused to comment, but whistleblowers didn't stay quiet. An anonymous Homeland Security contractor leaked a 2022 transcript showing that federal surveillance was actively pulled off cartel-linked financial transactions at the request of a subcontracted firm with defense ties. The name of the firm? Holstein Risk Advisory, the same company linked in Ovidio's testimony as the safe route facilitator for multi-ton shipments crossing from Sonora into Arizona. By the summer of 2025, public opinion turned hostile. Protests erupted in Chicago, Houston, and San Diego, with crowds demanding transparency from lawmakers on campaign financing, immigration policies, and drug enforcement budgets. The media dubbed it the narco nexus reckoning. One protester's sign went viral: "If the cartel is in Washington, who's in control?" And yet, through it all, Ovidio remained untouched. No new charges, no new leaks. His legal team stopped giving interviews. But behind the scenes, sources confirmed he'd been moved under extreme protection into an underground housing unit codenamed Vault Echo, reportedly in Montana. His location is so protected, even the facility's staff uses rotated personnel and non-disclosure cloaking similar to CIA black sites. And here's where the conspiracy theories began, because some now believe that Ovidio is no longer just an informant. He's a federal asset, with access to intelligence that could compromise active American politicians, contractors, and foreign allies. Some say he's being preserved not for sentencing, but for future bargaining leverage. Others believe the mouse made a final trade, his soul, for systemic exposure. But not everyone is convinced this was justice. In a rare interview, the widow of a cartel journalist gunned down in Culiacan told El País they made him a whistleblower, but never a victim. The people he had killed don't come back, the homes he destroyed don't rebuild, and still he gets to breathe. That comment echoes a sentiment shared by thousands. Is flipping the system enough to erase the blood spilled to build it? Because yes, Ovidio exposed global corruption. Yes, he detonated the cartel's command chain. But what about the families ruined? The towns turned to war zones. The kids overdosing in high schools on fentanyl disguised as Xanax. What about justice? This story began with a courtroom apology. A man the world feared dropped his head and said, "I'm sorry." But what followed wasn't remorse. It was revelation. It was global collapse. collapse, a once untouchable empire turned inside out. Presidents, pop stars, bankers, and killers, all wrapped in one massive unraveling of lies that had been carefully curated over 3 decades. Ovidio Guzman Lopez didn't just dismantle a criminal enterprise, he redefined the drug war. And while he may never walk free, one truth is undeniable. The mouse roared louder than any lion. Thanks for watching. For more of such content, be sure to click on the card showing on the screen.